What's good, man? Back with another episode. Make sure y'all subscribe to that thing, man. Backseat of the V. Today is definitely a special one for me, man. I definitely wanted to touch on this right here because as we get back into school with everything going on, man, I think a lot of people need to be informed of what's going on and just have a healthy conversation about this thing. So I got this queen over here to my right.
Hey, good.
Speak to him, man. Run that resume down. Oh,
Oh, goodness.
No.
All right. I am Monique Butler. I am a 4th grade teacher, East Hartford, Connecticut. I've been teaching for the past 17 years. I taught in Miami, Florida for 5 years, 12 years in East Hartford, Connecticut. I'm the union representative for East Hartford Education Association. Wow. I sat on the board for Connecticut Education Association. I have a program for the past 10 years called Commit to Stay Fit. It deals with pretty much nutrition, exercise, mindfulness, and mindfulness especially during a pandemic. I mean, I have a lot. I don't know. It's a lot.
I just want them to know you qualify right now. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's just some of it. I'll think about some things more later, but that's where I am right now.
Yeah, and it's just, I want to, before we even get into it, it's like, I don't want to get it confused because my opinions have nothing to do with her and how she feels, because as a parent, I feel like teachers are underpaid. I feel like they're not appreciated and they're not being supported the way I think they should be during times like this. You know what I'm saying? And I want to get that out there. And I just want to say thank you. You know, having 3 kids in the school system, I just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome, definitely, definitely. And I definitely understand where you're coming from as a parent myself. My son is 15, and with him being in high school, this is not the norm. Everybody said, you know, when we get back to the norm, or we got to make this as normal, there's nothing normal about a pandemic. Especially when you have children. Like, they're not used to this. I mean, our children, that's probably like, you know, early education may get to used to this, or this is like a long-term thing. But you got to think about kids that's been in school for over the past, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and he's in 10th grade. You know, and I'm just trying to explain to him, just like, everything is not going to be the same right now, and we have to work together. So I do appreciate you as a parent saying, like, you know what, your feelings about how, you know, supportive you are with teachers being a parent. Because during the pandemic, we have not gotten a lot of that support.
Y'all hear that? Y'all need to support y'all teachers, man. And just communication, if that's the least that you can do, just communicate, because that will go a long way, especially when they're dealing with your child. You know what I'm saying? So make sure y'all, you know, look out for your teachers, man. Oh man, what's wow. Let me take it back to when this whole pandemic started. Like, what was going through your mind? Because as a parent, I was like, at first I was like, well, maybe they'll be back in a week or 2, and you know, then things got more serious, and it was like, oh, they're done, they're not going back. So how did that play out for you as a teacher?
Well, at the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, we want to put teaching aside. We're gonna put teaching aside because I said, every time there's an election year, we seem to have some type of, you know, pandemic or some type of virus. Ebola, swine flu. So I was like, you know what, this might be a hoax, just to sit here and see how we are going to be traditionally as people that understand like voting and stuff like that. So at first I was like, this ain't narrow. But as schools began to shut down and not being at work, remember, I've been teaching for 17 years. 17 years. I've never seen anything like this in my career of teaching. Not only that, I'm about to be 40. So out of my career as being a teacher and being in the school system as a student, I've never seen or witnessed something like this. So I sat here and said, well, pretty much we're lucky. And the reason why I say that we're lucky is because we do have technology. So just imagine back when the school shut down completely and there was no education being provided, period. So for us as teachers, we were not able to see our kids. And one thing about us is like that social interaction is very important because kids love to be actively engaged. So we didn't have what we're having right now for the fall. For the fall, you're gonna actually see us online, teaching, providing support. Back when we started, we were providing support, but we were not doing Zoom or Google Meets or Google, and some people were. I'm not saying everybody, but I know in the elementary system that I'm in, we didn't have that service.
Okay.
We didn't have that training. So we didn't want to just jump online and sit here and say, we're going to teach your children when we don't have the training ourselves.
Right.
That's what professional development is for. And then at that time, you know, everybody praised us. You know, school shut down.
Yeah.
You know, we finished work. What would I do with my kids if I didn't have the work?
Right.
And everybody was okay until April. Because, you know, it was in the middle of March. Then April rolled around and it was like, okay, school needs to open up. I gotta go to work.
Right.
You know, as the parents that are working from home, they never have a problem. It's like, as long as they're provided with work,
right,
they're okay. And I'm telling them all the time, if you were in an actual school setting, your child is not supposed to be in front of a screen for 7 hours. Because when I'm in school, I'm not teaching for 7 hours. They do have lunch. They have recess, they have specials, they have downtime, and not downtime as far as like play around time. They have social engagement time where we have to talk about social emotional learning. So you're not on a screen for 7 hours. I'm like, you might be on the screen, you know, for 3 hours, because in a typical classroom, we might be teaching 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. So I wanted to put that out there then, like I'm doing it now. So parents was okay. They was happy. Yeah. March came, you know what I mean, April came. It was like, okay, you know, when we are going back to school, May was like, after Memorial Day, it's like, these kids need to be in school. And I'm like, we only got a week left. Right. And the whole conversations with parents throughout the entire summer was, are these kids going back to school? And that was a month-to-month thing when it came to our governor, because he wanted to do the statistics, making sure that safety's first. Connecticut has the lowest rate of the coronavirus right now in the United States. Right? So obviously, most likely, he's doing something right, we're doing something right. Right. However, there's no telling on when schools are going to be officially open. And that's the question that I've had, and there was a lot of more turmoil behind that question, but you know.
I mean, I don't, me personally, I'm not sending my kids back, because I mean, I don't think the plans that's in play, as a parent, I don't feel safe, honestly. And these are kids, so they're very unpredictable, and it's like, honestly, I think this stuff is gonna spike back up and they're gonna shut down again. So I mean, I just don't feel safe enough to send my kids in to. And
with that being said, I had a kid ask me the other day, she says, how is it that we have to stay home, but there's some kids going back to school? And I said, it's everybody's parents' preference. Right. Right. And but the thing about it is, parents have more of a say-so when it comes to education, period, because we're providing them a service, right? In which, and all in all, understandably, but teachers and educators' voices need to be heard as well, right? Because we want to be safe. We have children ourselves. Some of us may not, but we want to be safe as well. Right. And that was the whole controversy in itself, because it's like, okay, parents have voices. We get it. But as teachers, we need to have voices because we want to make sure that your child is safe. Right. We cannot sit here and say adequately, like, because of what we have and the means and the services that's being rendered. For example, making sure that they have face masks, making sure that the schools are continuously being clean, that we have the resource, the funds that you would like us to have at this moment, because that's not what we have. That comes with the support. Where's the support for that though? Like, we have to, the higher ups need to make sure that's there. And see, the higher ups don't have that, you know, they don't have that say in how much money is being allocated for every school system. Right, our school systems, especially in the urban area schools, for the past 10 years, has been underfunded. And I took some courses because I wanted to be a councilwoman for, you know, for Bloomfield or East Hartford. Most likely it's going to be Bloomfield because I live in Bloomfield. Right. But I did some courses, and one of the things that was really interesting is how much money has been taken out of education in the past 10 years. You remember the Boys and Girls Club? Right. You know, remember the YMCA? Right. You remember we had rec when you could go at certain times of the day and chill out, hang out with your friends and enjoy it? Our kids don't have that. Right. Right. And they got the streets. They turn to the streets. I feel like when you had all those programs that gave kids something to do other than running the streets, then they stayed out of the streets. Exactly. Once you take all those programs, it's like, okay, what are we supposed to do? And they just out here. And that's the thing about when it comes to like education and parents stating if they want to bring their kids back, because they already see that we are not really funded, especially in urban area schools. There's not tremendous amount of the funds for our students to be, you know, adequately, like, you know, surfaced. And when the kid asked me that question, and I told her, I said, you know what? Once again, all parents have different opinions on why they should or keep their kids home. She's like, well, we're at home, and I feel like with COVID, we all need to be safe. Because what if I want to go back to school and there's already kids at school and something happens? And I stated to her that, well, you know what, for right now, we're going to focus on the opinion of your parent. And if that was your parent decided as her decision, then that's what we have to go through.
Right.
You know, I can't tell you what another parent's decided and if that was more important than your parent's decision, because it's not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Me personally, my son is 15, and although he's older, he's not like an elementary student.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, elementary, they want to hug.
Right.
They socially distance. No.
And everything.
What some parents and some people fail to realize is that when they say, well, kids haven't been really exposed. Of course, that's the problem that people are having. They haven't been exposed. Right. Okay? They've been kind of isolated. Yeah. So they've been isolated to a point now. They've been probably in a household with 1, 2, 3 other kids. Right, right. They're going to be in a classroom probably with 10, 15 other kids. You want to sit here and engage. You want to hug. You want to talk. You want to play around. You want to have recess. Right. And these are the things that most likely they're not going to have. Elementary students do not really understand that until you continuously teach them. Yeah. So it's the school day going to be about learning safety more than actually providing them with the resource that they need to be educated? Yeah. That's the concern I had. Yeah. Right? With my son, although he's a teenager, teenagers don't listen. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, you got someone that's in elementary, you got someone that's in high school, but then you got middle schoolers. It's like a kid is going to do what they want to do, despite what a teacher tells them, because that's not the norm. This is not normal to us. That's not normal to them. All they know is they miss their friends, and when I do see them again, and hey, it's back to normal. Yeah. And it's really not. Yeah. You know. The thing that I really didn't like during this pandemic was when not even June, the end of July hit. We had so much backlash as teachers, and we just sat at home from the whole March until the end of the school year. We did nothing. Oh, wow. But I hope that things are different when we start school again, and that teachers are actually teaching and not just collecting a paycheck. Whoa. And I said to myself, I'm like, when we were providing you those resources, everybody was happy. Teachers saved the day. We got so many accolades. But when it was not conducive, or it wasn't convenient for certain people, then it became a problem. Right? So now, because it's extremely not convenient for parents, or it's not extremely convenient for probably the school system, or whatever the case may be, teachers are the problem. And I'm saying, how I'm the problem, how are they the problem? Right. When we're doing the best that we can with the resources or the things that we are provided with. Right, right. So, I mean, you know what? Like they say, some people are going to love you, some people are going to hate you. Exactly. You just do exactly what you need to do to provide services, and that's what I'm here for. Yeah, it's just everybody was in a panic. I don't think they're personally trying to bash you guys, but at the end of the day, they're caught between a rock and a hard place as well. Okay, what do we do as parents? And I gotta go to work, my kid is at home, I have no child care, or so I think it was more or less them running around trying to figure things out themselves, and we got to get these kids back to school. So I mean, everybody, it was tough. It was tough for everybody during this thing, because nobody knew anything. Exactly. And I was gonna say, on the flip side, where it says that people are in a panic, and like they said, it's been since March, and schools have been closed, and we should have had everything organized and planned. Yeah. Right? I said the same thing for parents. In March that potentially that the pandemic was still going to be around. In March that the COVID was not going to go away instantly. Right. So since then, what were your plans? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You should have been planning. Because one thing for sure, two things for certain, if you're a parent that if you felt like COVID was going to cause anything fatal for your children, and you feel like, you know what, I want to keep my kids home, then you should have had something, you should have been prepping from the beginning, right? Yeah. And if you were prepping from the beginning, the stress levels would not be elevated when August, September hit. Oh, they about to sit here and start school late. Oh my goodness, I gotta go to work. Yeah, but guess what? If you prepped like we're supposed to be prepping since March, you would have had everything set in stone. Like I got parents right now that's mad because we don't have an after school program. Really, here's the thing. When you have your kids in school, you don't want them to be in school when there's a virus. Exactly. All day in after school, because you got to get out of work. I always say, and I'm going to be honest, you can be easily replaced. Okay? Your child cannot be easily replaced. Right. Right? So if you were to lose your job because you had to stay home to take care of your children during this time, because you don't want them to be in the school system because of safety and fear, right? Your job would easily let you go, but your child cannot be replaced. No, not and that's how I feel about my son. Right. I had to go through certain avenues myself to sit here and think like, okay, what happens if something happens to me? And me having a medical condition and concerns, I didn't want to subject myself. So I went through every avenue and channel that I necessarily needed for me to be able to be safe so that he can be safe.
Right.
And I already had a plan from day one. Like, okay, nobody can say, oh, because you're a teacher, you knew what's going to happen. No one knew what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I did that. As soon as they say pandemic and I was thinking about the fall already, I'm like, listen.
It's like everybody's out buying tissue and soap, but I'm prepping for the bigger things. Like, that makes sense. I mean, I get it. Everybody was prepping to make sure they had enough tissue.
Yeah. And Clorox.
But I mean,
exactly.
It's just everybody's panicking, and you know, we just need to step back, take a breath, and just use common sense and really just
work together, to be honest.
Exactly.
We need to work together. Like right now with me being online virtually, this was a great experience, and I've only been teaching online for a week. So before that week, we had, you know, a couple of weeks where we were actually doing professional development, understanding, like, you know, the different applications that we're going to be using for our students, like Google Meets, Google Classroom. We were learning about, you know, making sure on Google Drive we had all of the resources that they're going to need, how to make presentations. We're going to have other things for social emotional learning because they're in the pandemic. So what I did was, personally, I got a donors choose in like March. As soon as the pandemic hit, I was like, you know what? I know that our kids are going to need something where it comes to expressing themselves. Right. You don't know if they're at home and people are actually talking to them about the pandemic. Okay? And there's a lot of things going on since March until now. It's the pandemic. We got racism. We got the elections. We got a lot of different things where a child needs to be able to be informed. Right? Because you don't want your kids to just grow up going out here and they blindside like us. Our parents would be like, sometimes they used to tell us like, but you don't know, you don't need to know. Right? Our children need to know because they need to be able to maneuver through life. Because this life is not something that where we could just sit here and hold things back because we got social media. It's not like we ain't got
it's already in their face. So it's best that you as the parent confront that head on with your child, like, listen, this is what it is, and really explain it to them, because you rather you explain it to them than them seeing it somewhere else or somebody else explaining it to them and giving them false information.
Exactly, like, you know, fake news.
And
then it'd be like, you know what, you didn't even do your research. Right. So like I did this Donors Choose. Donors Choose is one of these world-renowned you know, fundraisers. Where you set up a fundraiser for anything that you're like, any type of, you know, like any type of like concern, or not even concern, it's more so of basically helping our students with resources, right? Sometimes what people do is they may need for their classroom more electronics. They may need more resources for science, social studies, whatever the case may be. I did it for the pandemic. And it's called Coping Through the Pandemic. Okay. And what I wanted our kids to know is that their voices need to be heard. They're important. Right. And also, not only with that, with coping through the pandemic, a lot of them lost people because of COVID. There's a tremendous amount of people that lost their jobs. Okay. Their kids at home whose parents are at work, and they're not being provided with the love and emotional support, because when their parents come back, they might have worked a 12 or 13-hour shift and they sleep. No, and there's a lot of things to cope as a child. To cope with so many different things and a short period of time is tremendous. Right. So I did that, and I got a couple of books for them, and we're going to be utilizing those books for the next couple of weeks. The books are basically like just letting them know like their emotions, their feelings, who they are as a person is important. Right. And then if we want to go on the flip side, I also got the books, and I'm going to get more books, because working in the urban community, we are working with predominantly Caucasian white people. Right. And then with racism being so high on the charts right now, and every time you turn around, especially if you're watching the news, especially the news, the news itself. That's why when I was younger, I used to hate watching the news. It's not as bad now, but my mom turning the news is always something bad. But now we have kids that don't even probably watch the news, but they do have YouTube. They do have social media. They got TikTok, they got Snap, they got Facebook, even when they shouldn't have these things, but they're being exposed. So I did a march on June 20th. It's called Blackout. It's called Black Lives Actually Can't Keep Being Oppressed Until Tomorrow. So I'm gonna say it again. Black lives actually can't keep being oppressed until tomorrow. That's the acronym. Right? And the reason why I did that is because me working in a predominantly white school, and have an urban area or brown and black children, you do not know how they are feeling while they're coping through this pandemic and they're seeing racism, and you want them to go back to school. Right? And then a lot of their parents were looking at the news and it's like, oh, my kid's not about to be a guinea pig. You're trying to sit here and wipe our black and brown children out.
There was a lot of that going around.
Right? So with that being said, I had like, you know, different people. Sorry. We work with East Hartford Police Department. I had Connecticut Education Association, the president, Jeff Leak. I had Tom Nickel, and he's like he's the vice president. So I had like, I had different people. I had Jeff Curry, he's a state representative, and it was just so many different people that actually was on my team that helped out, because we wanted our kids to know that, you know what, they're still safe. Right? And that we care about them as a community. I wish more communities was like East Hartford, because I work in East Hartford. The only thing that I'm still concerned about is how are students going to be given what they need when they come into the school system, you know? Because like as far as the social and emotional learning, as far as like them getting books and adequate resources, that's the only concern. You know, so I mean, we had Blumenthal that was there. It was a tremendous amount of really great people who are in our community, but I also wanted to make sure that they had students, because I had students from East Hartford High. I had students from, you know, the elementary who actually ran the entire program. Oh wow! Yeah, I mean, I was the host, but they were the people. You know, I was the host. I was the person who, you know, sat down. It was many nights. I ain't gonna lie. It was many nights I didn't really sleep. Oh wow! Because I was out here and I was sitting here planning on exactly what my vision was. See, when people talk about protesting and what they see on TV, like, you know what? Back when people thought about protesting, it was always about like, you know, making sure that your voices are heard and was a strong type of system. Now protesting is just protesting for some people. It's like ranting and raving, you know, making noise. But I didn't want it to be like that. We weren't just marching through the streets and making a whole bunch of noise. We sat up at East Hartford High School. It was like a program where we had people speaking, children doing poems, going through the whole different channels. Then we marched down 8 minutes in. I think with 8 minutes 6 seconds or 16 seconds for George Floyd. Had them sit there and understand how it is to sit, you know, to go through certain things, not even go through it, just to see or how it might feel to be impacted by a police brutality, you know? So I mean, it was a lot. Wow. It was a lot. Wow. And you got to understand, just from that one program that we had, or that one, it was a peaceful rally, not a program, it was a peaceful rally. From that by itself, from going through just the whole program and the 8 minutes and some odd seconds and walking back and forth, imagine how it is for them to live like this possibly every day, of trying to get their voices heard. That's unbelievable. That's crazy right there. And I seen a lot, like you was getting a lot of backlash off of that, just trying to put that together. And I reached out to you like, dude, like everybody don't deserve your energy. Like you're on the right path, you're doing something positive, and it means something. So of course you're gonna have people that dislike you or dislike what you're doing, and they're gonna have their own opinions about it. But I like the fact that you didn't let that bother you, and you just kept running your race, and you just stayed in your lane and stayed positive about the whole situation. So I commend you on that. Oh yeah, thank you. And you know the greatest thing about like me being an educator is that I sit here and I see how it is within the school system. And the good thing about that also is like, when it comes to like I said, black and brown children, the thing is, sitting on these boards, especially in Connecticut, you learn a lot of things. And what I've learned is that we cannot sit here and think just because they're like, we're working with Caucasian, you know, teachers and educators, that they really don't care about our children. Because that's what, when I'm sitting on those boards, even when you're in the Board of Education, or you're in the Connecticut Education Association, the East Hartford Education Association, when they have times where parents need to be there, or they need guardians there, a lot of people don't really show up. So we can't say, I mean, it's their job, but then you have some really passionate people there. But my problem is, our people need to be there. You know, I mean, nothing is going to really work within our communities if we don't step up to the plate. We could have everybody voice their concern. Like within East Hartford alone, there's 98% of Caucasian teachers. You think about the other 2%. I'm running the 2%. If I'm like the only person showing up at the table, everybody else is not gonna get fed. You gotta come to the table too.
Yeah.
You know?
They
so
step up.
that's the problem that I see within our community. Like everybody needs to work together, but you need to show up.
Yeah, and a lot of that is like people figure, okay, I said something on social media, so that's enough. Like, no, you really need to hit the ground, hit the pavement, and really get to working with it. I mean, you could talk and say this and that, but you really need to get out here and really make things happen if you want to change.
Advocate.
Exactly, like all that sitting home and what they say, the Twitter fingers.
Yes.
That's
and
not enough.
Working. They work very well.
It's not enough.
You know, they got those. They definitely got Twitter fingers. And I even sat here and I reached out. I wrote on Facebook the other day. I said I'm not gonna sit here and have controversial conversations on social media. Now, if they want to do a forum, because that's what my committee is doing. The one that I did with Blackout. Our committee stated that we don't want it to just be this one moment when we have a peaceful rally. What do we do for the future? Like, you know what I'm saying? Moving forward. And I extended myself and I stated, you know what? If there's anyone that would like to talk about schools reopening in the fall, before schools open, which starts tomorrow, and I asked this question about two weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, and there was only one person that reached out. Now, mind you, I got over 1,000 friends on Facebook, okay? Now, I haven't reached that platform of 5,000, which I really don't care about the numbers. However,
get your likes up.
My friends up. But that's even the point of overall is like, you got so many people that have so much to say, and I get one person.
Yeah, and you would think, you being in the position that you're in, a lot more people will be reaching out just to see if they can get any more information, or how do you feel, like, or what's going on, because maybe, I don't know, maybe you got an insight, or maybe not, but you know, but I would at least still like try to figure it out.
Exactly.
But a lot of parents might just be like me, like, no way, my kid's staying home, I don't care, we'll figure it out later.
Okay, I mean that's
for real.
But that's what, and that's good to say, like, you know, we'll figure it out later, but you don't want to wait till later.
Man.
Like, you want your kids to stay home, but you want to make sure that you know what the schools are doing to prepare them when the pandemic is supposed to be over. Right?
Yeah.
So how do you prepare your child to actually get back into the schools and ease themselves back into being with their friends socially and with the teachers, and what kind of curriculum would they be learning when they get back?
Right.
So, I mean, I do get it. Like, you know what? We're not worried about that right now, as long as my kids are safe. But those are certain questions that we need to be asking to make sure you stay on top of them. Because if you sit here and you don't stay on top, that's what they're going to feel like, you know, nonchalantly. Like, it's okay for us to do what we're doing because no one's saying anything.
Right. So
if you ask me for a forum, I'm gonna be like, hey, listen, these are the times available. This is the discussion. I'm a person, I like to organize. I don't want to throw nothing together. I'm not gonna, when I was planning for Blackout, it was nothing, it was June 20th. I planned that and organized that over a month. Wow. Because it was just really, it was last minute, but it wasn't last minute. Yeah. I was like, I want to go out here and do a rally right now. I ain't gonna lie, I'm like, right now. Yeah. But then I thought about it, I'm like, how is it gonna look? Like, I'm a visionary. Yeah. Like, I gotta see it in my mind, like how it's supposed to play out. And it might not play out exactly in my mind how it is, but at least I know that when I'm organizing, like, for the most part, the vision is going to be heard. Yeah. Like, we had Zoom meetings. Oh, wow. I sat here and contacted, I had people from council. I had, you know, like I said, the president and the vice president of CEA, state representatives. I even met with East Hartford Police. I had teachers, I had parents, I had students from the school system. And I made sure my team was not extremely big, but it was small enough so that everybody was allocated a position to do. Like, here's your job. So when we meet next time, these are the things that you need to come back with, or you should come back with, so we can have those conversations. Yeah. You know, a courageous conversation has to be controversial sometimes, because you have to be uncomfortable. Right. So if they watch the video that I have on YouTube from Hartford, I think it was Hartford Current, or no, from CEA. CEA, they did like a news article in the video. And I ain't really want to talk because I don't like talking. I'm gonna be honest. It's my little list. Right. But that's what I said. I said we have to have courageous conversations. Yeah. Because if you don't have these conversations, what happens? That's why people are uncomfortable. Because they have to be uncomfortable.
We need to make it the norm. Like, everybody's not gonna see things the same way. So at the end of the day, at least I know how you feel, and I can respect how you feel. We might not agree, but, you know, okay, this is how this person feels, and this is why this person feels this way. So I can have a better understanding of where you're coming from, and we can move accordingly with like that, you know what I'm saying, with that understanding.
Yeah, and it's perspectives. Everything is about perspectives.
Right.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Okay, like, you know how people like to argue? There's a difference between an argument, a debate, and a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta understand the difference. Some people don't understand, like, if I'm having a conversation with you, an argument, that's different. We just yelling back and forth.
Right.
A debate is I have one side, you have one side, and one of us gonna win.
Yeah,
but as a conversation is, we both have an opinion, we both might agree, we both might disagree, or we both may just come to a compromise.
Right.
Conversations should be a little bit more, like, to a point where we can sit here and be a little bit more to a, you know, kind of comfortable with knowing that I can at least get my point across and you can't.
Right.
Right. You yelling at me, screaming, that's just arguing.
You're not even understanding or listening to what I'm saying. You just listening to reply opposed to listening to understand.
Exactly.
I
So
get it.
that's what I'm saying. I get it.
I get it.
I get it.
For real.
But I just want to know, like, this is the thing. My question is, right now at this moment, school starts tomorrow.
Right.
For us. In Hartford, it does. Not me, us, because like East Hartford started last week or Monday. I know school is trickling in. Some schools are starting tomorrow. I heard a couple of schools may start next week.
Yeah.
My whole thing is, right now, what is the support that everybody should be providing to our kids? What type of emotional support, curriculum, instructional, you know, financial, when it comes to like the, you know, making sure that they have the resources to utilize certain programs that they necessarily need. For my kids at home, my question was, how are they being provided with, you know, more online services? Because some of them may not be able to afford it, but I did hear that, you know, Comcast was reaching out, giving, you know, discounts.
Yeah,
but how long do we think that Comcast is gonna give discounts?
And I seen a little picture on social media as well, as kids was outside of a Taco Bell using their free Wi-Fi.
That's another thing.
And I'm like, wow, like how is that even? We gotta really get this together. Like, we gotta get it together. Like, if this is gonna be the new norm or a part of the norm, we gotta get that together so where every kid has, you know, the same ability to do everything. Like, you need the same resources.
Exactly. And that's another thing, like I was sitting here saying, a kid sitting outside of Taco Bell, we live in Connecticut.
Yeah.
There's northern states that it is going to be cold, and you're going to be running up your gas, and it's not really good to have a kid in the car with gas and running gas all day anyhow, because that's detrimental to their health.
Right.
So those are the things that parents right now, I believe, need to be asked in those type of questions. Like, okay, so what if we don't have, you know, sufficient amount of resources within our household? Are you going to be able to provide that? Do you have funds for that? Okay, I got kids. Like I said, I've been teaching only a week online, and I still have kids where they were sitting here saying, "Oh, my Wi-Fi went out," or "My mom is going to get Wi-Fi next week," or "My dad said that, you know what, I can use this," but every time they kept on getting kicked out of the service. So they're losing out on instruction.
Right.
You know, and with me, although I have what I need, you know, as far as like, you know, servicing for the internet, they don't.
Yeah.
And when I'm teaching, like if I'm teaching, especially in the classroom, is a little bit more, it's like a little easier, where if they miss out on like probably 20 minutes of instruction, they come in late, then I can sit here and I can tell them exactly, you know, what they need to do.
Right.
But for right now, it's a little bit more challenging. So I have to sit here and analyze what challenges am I having for the next couple of weeks or next couple of months, plus the personalities, different like abilities, right? See, parents and sometimes parents don't know that because you're not in the classroom, right? In order for me to provide a service, you think about when you're working with 15 or 20 people, they got different personalities, they got different skills levels, they got different, you know, ways they communicate. I got to do that online. I don't got that personal way I can walk over and be like, you can do it like this, or you can make sure you do it this way, or you know. So I mean, it's challenging. I'm up for the challenge. I know there's thousands and millions of teachers that's up for the challenge, and parents. We gotta work this thing out together.
Yeah, and as a parent, like to all other parents, you need to understand, like, teaching through the internet is new as well, so they're gonna have some hiccups along the way, but you know, they're adjusting and making the changes that need to be changed, and it's everybody's learning the new. You know what I'm saying? So we got to be patient with each other on both ends. And okay, just because she's been teaching for this amount of time, she hasn't been teaching online and all this is new. And a lot of people aren't computer savvy,
like me,
to the point where they can, you know, organize all of this through computer. So it's like, it's a learning process for everybody, and everybody needs to understand that and be patient with each other. That's the only way we're gonna get through this. Like, we really gotta work together. Like you said earlier, we just gotta communicate
and be patient with your children. Please.
Like, little Johnny went through us too.
Exactly.
You heard what he? Nah, you can't be
seriously.
doing that. Like,
listen, I swear, once again, like you said, this is something that is new, especially for myself.
Yeah.
Right? When we had online learning, you never really saw the teacher.
Right.
And you never talked. You just did the work.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I have online courses, you know, in college several years ago.
Yeah.
But I never really talked to nobody. Now you can hear everything if nobody's on mute.
Right.
Okay? So when we have parents, and I had to talk to a parent the other day, she was getting frustrated. It was understandable. Like,
right.
Because my computer kept on knocking me out the system. And I told her, I said, listen, and I was gonna be honest. I said, I'm not as computer savvy as I would like to be, but however, throughout this process, we're all gonna be learning together.
Right.
And I do understand your frustration because I got knocked out and the kids were still there. So what happened when I got back in, and it was grateful that the system didn't stay down long, but I was able to get back in, provide them with, and I said, just in case, you know, just make sure that they get this work done.
Okay.
All right, and the parent, like, she was like less frustrated because of the fact that she knew I was there to support, despite the challenges I was having, you know, she was having. Then I do have some parents that was like, you know, extremely frustrated, and when you're frustrated, the kids feel that energy.
Yeah.
So now they're frustrated and they don't want to learn no more. So the kids shut down easily. Now, guess what? As a teacher, I had to deal with that. This is what we deal with on a normal basis in school.
Right.
You know, we have so many different hats. We have to be the psychologist. We have to be the parent. You got to be the teacher, the social worker, the confidant, the nurse, everything. Yeah. But when we're online, I can't sit here and tell a parent not to use profanity.
And their house. This is my house. I say what I want to say. This is my child. You there?
I can't not tell a parent when their child is taking their shirt off while I'm teaching. Like, excuse me, ma'am, sir, can you make sure he's not in the bed with his shirt on? Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, treat this as a professional environment. Right. And make sure that you talk to your children. Make sure that they understand that they are important, their needs are important, and we can do this together. Right. So that's what I have to say. You said a lot. I know. Now I like talking.
But you know, we just gotta work together because this is new for everybody. Everybody's frustrated in some sort of way, and you know, we taking on a lot. Yes. You know, especially with trying to just get kids back in school. Like, I understand that's what they want to do, but you know, it's a process, and we just gotta work through it and hope for the best, man, and basically, you know, plan for it all. Try to, at least.
Exactly. Like my son, he is 15, and the kid, when I say he absolutely does not like school, the only reason why he wants to go back to school because of football. That's another, I mean, not football, basketball. That's another concern. We'll talk about that another time. But as far as basketball, he loves basketball. He got good grades, like straight A's, A's and B's, honor roll, high honor roll, and he's like, man, I got all those good grades. I came to play, and I said to him, see, now we need to go back beyond the pandemic. What's more important? Okay, like sports are important, but you need your academics, right? You need to be academically inclined, so that way, if anything happens, if you break a leg or anything on that basketball court, you're still going to have like your knowledge and the certain skills in order to sit here and be well when you go to college or whatever the case may be. So he's like really nervous and upset because he's like, man, I did so well academically, now I can't play basketball. But for those kids that's in high school with basketball or any kind of sports, we have to also let them know that we want them to be safe. They want to be on the field, they want to show their skills, they want to showcase their abilities, but it's better safe than sorry.
Exactly. You got to take the safe route. I understand everybody want to get back to how things were, but at the end of the day, all that other stuff, like your life can't be replaced. Exactly. So you got to think of it that way, and just moving forward, like, you know, staying in communication with your schools, your district. You know, I like my school. I get emails every day. You know what I'm saying? And I'm on, like, I do, but you know, it's information. You know, it's information. So I try to keep that in mind and understand what's going on. so we can be all right, man. But we're gonna get through this together, man,
Yes,
and
we
make sure
are.
we just work together. We're gonna be all right, man.
That's it.
Anything else you want to say before we part ways for the evening?
No, not really. I mean, you basically summed it all up. I mean, that's all I'm really saying. Like, we are here together as one. We gotta have unity.
Right.
Unity in the community.
Unity in the community.
Yeah, exactly.
UNITY. Now, I just really want to thank you for coming on, man, and just talking to the people, and hopefully they got a better understanding on your side of the the pandemic.
I know, right? I know, that's a good one. I can write that as a book. Your side of
Hey, I need a couple dollars.
You're gonna need some money. I'm gonna give you some money. Your side of the pandemic.
Right. But yeah, man, thanks for tuning in. Backseat of the V, another one in the books, man. Make sure y'all subscribe.
Backseat of my Jeep, let's swing an episode. Backseat of my Jeep, let's swing an episode. Backseat of my Jeep, let's swing an episode. Backseat